On April 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th of 2024, a widespread disastrous tornado outbreak occurred across the United States. This ended up bringing tornadoes to many states, all right? Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Virtually everywhere got hit by some form of severe weather. Today, we're going to be breaking down the major tornadoes, damaging wind gusts, and large hail that occurred across these 4 days of extreme severe weather across the United States. Now, the first tornado that occurred in this event that was really significant came from Osage County, Kansas. This was a high-end EF1 tornado that ended up causing significant damage to barns and homes, and this was a very long-lived supercell on April 16th, alright? It had already produced an EF1 tornado. This one ended up being the stronger out of the two that it produced, but both of them were pretty significant. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about the Houghton, Iowa tornado. This tornado was insane. We were watching it live on stream. If you did not check that out, that stream is still up on YouTube and you can watch it back. And this tornado somehow did not even receive a PDS tornado warning. It had a massive correlation coefficient drop. The velocities were estimating radar indicated winds over 100 mile per hour, and it was even reported to be a wedge tornado, and somehow the National Weather Service did not recognize that as a particularly dangerous situation. So unfortunately, the proper message was not sent out to a lot of people, and they did not take the situation as seriously as they should have, I feel like. This was definitely deserving of at least a PDS tornado tag, but somehow stayed only at observed, and it caused this level of damage, which again is not something that you should see out of a tornado that isn't even warned for a PDS tag, because I mean, honestly, I'm not one of those people that, takes a giant dump on the National Weather Service for every single mistake that they make, but this was definitely a big one, alright? This had to have been a PDS tornado, alright? There's no way they weren't saying this and thinking, oh yeah, that doesn't deserve a PDS tag, so I'm not sure what they were thinking when they saw it, because it's almost like they just didn't care enough to put the PDS tag on there, because it was obviously a confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado. If they were actually looking at it, there's no way they would have seen that and said, oh yeah, that's a normal tornado. But maybe they did, maybe I'm wrong, and they can hate me for that, and so can you if you'd like, but that's just my opinion. This tornado was definitely not given enough recognition by the National Weather Service at the time of it occurring. Next up, we're going to go ahead and mention the Virgil, Kansas tornado that actually originated from the exact same supercell as the one that touched down in Osage County. So basically what happened was the Osage County one did quite a bit of damage. It did end up injuring two that were rolled in an RV. Then it kind of lifted up. The supercell kind of chilled out for a while, and then eventually did drop a strong end EF2 tornado south of Virgil, Kansas. The tornado caused lots of damage to barns and homes over open farmland, according to the Wikipedia article Tornadoes of 2024, and the tornado dissipated just before it entered the Paradise area. Now, unfortunately, I was not there live during the Virgil, Kansas tornado, but I have looked back on some of the radar imagery of it, and it was definitely insane. Now, there were so many more tornadoes that did occur in this event, but I just mentioned some of the bigger ones. We are going to do a little bit of a deep dive on some of the other ones that did occur, but we're not going to go quite as in depth. I just kind of picked the top 3 tornadoes, the first 3 that were listed on the Tornadoes of 2024 Wikipedia page there for this event. And I made sure that they were ones that I could get imagery of. Alright, I didn't do it if I couldn't find any good photos for it. So that's just kind of how I ended up picking the 3 tornadoes to talk about for this event. We are going to mention some of the other ones, though, because there are definitely some more strong tornadoes that occurred in this event. Alright, so now we're going to look at the storm reports for the 15th, which is arguably the most insane day, but some might say the 16th was. Well, there are also some people that are going to say the 17th was. And if you're not on those trains, maybe you're even saying the 18th was. Now, we don't have all the damage reports from the 18th in yet, because Actually, at the time of filming, it is the 18th, and there still are storms ongoing. There were tons of tornadoes today. There were at least half a dozen I know of, and we don't have any reports from any of them yet. So unfortunately, this is not going to be fully updated, but I wanted to get this video out as quickly as possible to you guys, all right? So we're just going to ignore that, right? We're going to start off with the 15th here, all right? We're looking at tornadoes all over Kansas. We got one that did happen in Smith County there. This one was on the smaller side. It was probably an EF1 tornado. I do not see its rating anywhere on this list, though. We did have a brief EF0 tornado touchdown in Webster County in Nebraska, all right? Its peak winds were only 65 miles per hour, so really nothing major at all. All right, now we did have a tornado that did touch down in Greenwood County, Kansas there. This was the Eureka, Kansas tornado. I was going to mention this, but this is one of the ones that I could not find good imagery for, but this was a high-end EF1 tornado. Stayed on the ground for quite a while, actually, and unfortunately, it was very late at night, so a lot of people were asleep when this hit. Then we got the Osage County, Kansas tornado that we did already mention, but you can see it did injure two that were rolled in that RV that we talked about. It was a high-end EF1 with estimated 100-mile-per-hour peak winds there. It traveled for almost 10 miles, which is pretty long for a tornado track. Then we finally had one in Shawnee County, Kansas. We don't really have any major reports of damage from it, okay, so it's probably not that big. Now we move on to the hail reports. We have so many reports of 1 inch or larger hail, and actually, a lot of them do come from Virginia, Maryland. That is because on the first day of this event, there was a dying storm from another event, right, that did happen in portions of Pennsylvania. The reason I'm not including that day as a part of this video is because there were not any tornadoes at all that occurred with that event, but this was the remnants of that storm, so we do have tons of hail reports from portions of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast regions. But you can see we've got your odd Texas report in there that was from this event. We'd have that ping pong ball-sized hail report there, and then we've even got some golf ball-sized hail reports, some in South Dakota, some in Texas, some in Nebraska, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't think about with this event, is that it was very widespread. Even if you just take one day out of it, pretty much every day was a widespread severe weather outbreak, okay? So then we scroll even further, and we see the biggest hail reports of this day was tennis ball-sized hail that was near Todd County, South Dakota. It was very, out in the middle of nowhere. The closest town was 18 miles away, all right? It was a very rural area, but there was a report of a tennis ball-sized hailstone there, which is massive, all right? So then we move on to the wind reports. We do have several reports of tree, structural, power line damage, all right? We did actually have a report of a carport collapsed in Pennsylvania entirely. And again, a lot of these reports are from the Mid-Atlantic area, but we scroll far enough and you start to see all of them come from South Dakota. A lot of them from Pennington County. We had so many 60-plus mile-per-hour gusts. We did have a 69-mile-per-hour gust there in Virginia. And then we scroll down, I believe this was the highest wind gust of this day, all right? This was in Nebraska, so it was from this event that we are talking about today, and it was a 78-mile-per-hour gust. That is very significant. That is definitely enough to cause some structural damage to some weaker structures. We did have one more 75-mile-per-hour wind report from Valley County, Nebraska. That's also considered a significant wind report. And several more 60 to 70-mile-per-hour wind reports from the Plains states. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to the 16th. This is the 16th, all right? We had tons of tornadoes across the plains again, all right? We did have a tornado in Greenwood County, Kansas there. That was an EF2 tornado with peak winds around 118 miles per hour. It was a low-end EF2 tornado. That was the one that we did mention near Virgil, all right? So we did already talk about that one, so we're not going to go too in-depth there. Then we had another one in Clay County, Missouri. Tree damage is pretty much all it caused, but it did actually also cause a mobile home to be flipped over. Luckily, no injuries were reported from that. Now, we did have a tornado that touched down intermittently in Dallas County, Iowa. It kind of dropped down, then lifted again, then dropped down and lifted. It did end up causing damage to some outbuildings, some mobile homes, but nothing crazy overall. Scattered sheet metal and fields. Nothing to write home about. It did produce about 4 different tornadoes, but they were all on the weaker side of things. They were all EF0s. We do have some reports from Platte County, Nebraska. There was a EF0 tornado. This is a high-end EF0 that did cause a little bit of damage to some trees, some mobile homes. Nothing crazy, right? Then we got one from Colfax County. This was showing a long-lived funnel cloud that apparently did touch down at some point. And there you go. There's your EF0 tornado report there, okay? So we do have another video of that there on social media. We got a brief touchdown in an open field in Plymouth County, Iowa. Colfax County, Nebraska, there's a video. There are a ton of tornado reports from, the same tornado over and over again in this damage list here. All right, we did have an EF1 tornado in Buchanan County, Iowa here. This was not the Iowa tornado that we mentioned. This is kind of a less significant EF1. It did damage some trees, but that's about it. So I didn't really mention that in our, list of tornadoes. So moving on to the hail reports here, we had tons of hail reports in the plains, all right? The plains got anywhere from 1 to 2 inch hail pretty much all across the plains, all right? You could be talking about Texas and South Dakota, all right, in the same day, all right? And we do have significant hail reports from everywhere in between. So going into the damage and wind reports, there isn't anything too crazy. It's kind of your standard power lines and trees down, but there are some more significant ones here. Large tree downed. All right, we've got power outages reported, but it's nothing crazy, honestly, all right? Not as much as you would expect it to be from an event like this, I do feel like. It's just kind of trees and power lines down over and over again. Some minor property damage from a tree limb that fell on a house. We did have some 60 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts there from portions of Missouri and Iowa, but that's not anything too crazy for an event like this, right? The day before, we saw there were 70, 75, even a gust that got close to 80 miles per hour, and this we're only seeing 60 to 70, okay? So the 16th was not quite as significant in terms of the damaging winds, but I would argue the tornadoes were more significant. So going into the 17th now, all right, this was the day of 2 events, actually. There was one that happened across portions of the Ohio Valley that did cause a large tornado that we are about to dive deep into here. And then it also caused kind of a lesser known but still pretty significant severe weather event here in the Central Plains, all right? And I was live for both of these. So, Crawford County, Ohio. This was a PDS tornado, all right? We got one PDS tornado from this entire event, and they chose to put the tag on a EF1. Okay, this was a strong EF1 to be fair, but still, this deserved a PDS tag, and the Virgil, Kansas tornado didn't. Or sorry, not the Virgil, Kansas tornado, the Houghton, Iowa tornado didn't. Like, that doesn't really seem right to me. All right, the Houghton, Iowa one was rated higher, but you didn't have to be a genius to look at the radar and know that that one was stronger than the Crawford County, Ohio one, but I've already complained enough about that, so I'll try to be less negative. We did have a few tornadoes in Ohio, but most of them were in the EF0 to EF1 caliber there, all right? Hail reports, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, they all got on some large to very large hail. In fact, the largest hail report from this entire event did come from Wabansie County, Kansas here, or Wabansie County, Kansas here, and it was a baseball-sized hail report. This was from the event that happened in the plains that night, and it did drop some baseball-sized hail near Paxico. Some damaging wind reports here, all right? Nothing crazy. Kind of, again, trees, power lines both down, all right? We have your odd 60 to 65 mile per hour wind gust report here. There was quite a few of them, I'll be honest. We did have a 70 mile per hour wind gust report from Jackson County, Kansas, but that's as high as it gets on this list. You don't have any higher than that. So nothing crazy in terms of the damaging winds, but the hail and tornadoes were pretty significant. Now, the final day, the 18th. Again, we don't have all of the reports in for this day yet because at the time of filming, this event is still going on, all right? So we're going to go over what we do know. Hail reports, all right? We do have several reports of golf ball-sized hail. We got some that are scattered around Missouri. We got some out there in Illinois, kind of Midwest event here. We did have a 2.25-inch hailstone fall in Hamilton County, Texas there. That was a significant one. Damage and wind gust reports. We had a 74-mile-per-hour gust report in Pike County, Illinois. That's a very significant one. But other than that, nothing crazy, honestly. Now, again, these reports are still coming in. The event's not even over yet, but that's what we know of right now. So in conclusion, this event was obviously catastrophic. Now, whenever there's a severe weather outbreak like this, I go live sometimes even 3 to 4 times a day covering this severe weather, helping everybody get through it. So, if you would like live weather coverage like that, make sure that you are clicking that like and subscribe button. Thank you all for watching this documentary, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.